Thank you very much. And look, thank you very much to the Hunter Innovation Forum for inviting me to come and speak with you today. Before I start to speak, though, I'm just going to start with a short video.
When you hear the word creative, what springs to mind? Imagination, ideas, artiness, dreaminess, beardiness, angular haircuts, black skivvies, interesting spectacles. Now try the same thing with the word industry. Probably quite a different set of associations, yes? Machinery, manufacturing, mining, practicality, blue collars, production lines. Given the different associations, some people find it surprising that not only do the words creative and industry go together, they complement each other very well. Because when you think about it, without the creative industries, all other industries would find it harder to be, well, industrious. For example, it's the creative industries that design new machinery so essential to the mining and agriculture industries. It's the creative industries that make all the content, the games and the apps that fuel our telecommunications industry, that give the manufacturing and retail industries things to make and things to sell, that design buildings so that businesses in other industries actually have somewhere to work in the first place. And of course, the creative industries keep us constantly entertained and enriched with films and TV, books and magazines, music and theatre. The fact is, the creative industries are very important to the whole Australian economy. They're also, when you see them all together, surprisingly big. Larger than other industries you might think would dwarf them. But they're more than just big, they're influential. Through their work, the creative industries have a gearing effect on other industries, generating 3 times their own value overall. So while it may be true there are some beards and black clothing, there's also billions in bright ideas in the creative industries. Now that's pretty creative and very industrious.
Why did we commission that little video? I'll tell you why. For the last 5 years, I've been running the Creative Industries Centre, and in many times when I present, I talk about the creative industries and people nod a lot, but I know they really aren't sure exactly what it encompasses. And I also deal with creative industries professionals who find it difficult to explain what they do or to be taken seriously. So we decided that we would commission that little video piece so that for those who go to barbecues or try to explain to their parents what they do, they just say, go have a look at the video. So what I'd also like to do is to welcome the people who are actually viewing this presentation virtually. I think it's fantastic that you're streaming this out, you know, start local, go global. In fact, start global, go local seems to be the way we're going these days. So welcome to those people. What I do know is that probably some of the slides might not come through as clearly for those of you who are watching online. So I will actually tell you what's on the slides. Just so for those of you who are sitting in the audience, you'll see it, but I will actually also speak to it. My talk's going to be in 2 parts this afternoon, but I will get you finished on time for afternoon tea. Firstly, I am going to talk about the report that we produced and released earlier this year, and which one of the kind of key findings from that is about where creative industries professionals, where the workforce is headed in Australia, where they are located, what they're doing. So I'm going to talk about that first. And then secondly, I'm just going to talk in a little bit more detail about some work we've been doing with manufacturers to take design into manufacturing and to produce, you know, more competitive, more innovative manufacturing companies in Australia. And I think that gives a really good example of the kind of the value that the creative professionals are providing to other sectors of the economy. So we'll just get this going again because it doesn't...
When you hear the word...
No,
creative...
don't want you. Okay. Okay, so this is the report, as I mentioned, and I've already got a claimant for the one copy I brought with me, but you can download it from our website, and also all the videos that I'll be showing you today are all available on our Vimeo site, on our website. So what we do know is that Australia's economic challenges are starkly apparent. In the wake of a diminishing contribution to our national income by primary commodity exports, think iron ore and coal, we need to rebalance our economy with new sources of productivity and growth. There are opportunities in the area of internationally traded services. Whilst currently dominated by tourism and education, professional services, which include the creative industries, is increasingly part of the mix. Another major source, perhaps surprising in light of our recent events in the Australian car manufacturing industry, is advanced manufacturing. We're seeing the use of innovative technology to improve products with opportunities for smart specialisation in global value chains. In other words, making things that are faster, lighter, more efficient and simply better. What these high potential growth activities have in common is an increasing emphasis in their business strategies on creativity and design innovation, and consequently a deepening interdependence with Australia's creative industries. The report that we released recently demonstrates the far-reaching direct and indirect contribution made by the businesses and workers of the creative industries to a range of activities across the economy. The report applies a methodology first used by the UK's National Endowment for the Arts, NESTA, based on the degree of creative intensity of all occupations. How is creative intensity defined? The research methodology is based on identifying occupations that bring cognitive skills to bear, to bring about differentiation, to yield either novel or significantly enhanced products whose final forms is not fully specified in advance. It thus documents the creative workforce in its entirety across all sectors of the economy. I'm going to take you through some of the key findings from the report, so it will be a little data heavy, so stick with me as it's not possible really to give you this picture without going through some of the numbers. This is only the tip of the iceberg that I'm showing you today in terms of the data. We do have a great interactive visualisation on our website where there's much more information sector by sector. So if you're looking for specific information about your particular sector, employment, incomes and so on, all of that information is available in more detail. Firstly, let me clarify who we are referring to when we use the term creative industries. We define them as those sectors which specialise in the use of creative talent for commercial purposes. And those sectors that we encompass include advertising and marketing, film, TV and radio, music and performing arts, software and interactive content, writing, publishing and print media, and architecture, design and visual arts. The creative industries make a direct contribution to GDP of $32.8 billion in 2011 and 12. The activity of the creative industries also has a flow-on stimulus for the greater economy. The study found that by taking into account indirect multiplier effects, the creative industries adds over $90 billion annually in turnover, $45 billion in GDP, and generates annual exports of $3.2 billion. These industries are surprisingly big. Based on direct GDP contribution alone, the creative industries contribute more than Australia's electricity, gas, water and waste services and agriculture, forestry and fishing industries. In employment terms, the creative industries are again a great contributor to the sectors mentioned previously, as well as the information, media and telecommunications and the mining industry, amongst others. This report shows that employment across the creative industries, however, goes beyond the ad agencies, design studios and app development companies. There are a sizable number of creative professionals who are working outside of the traditional creative industry borders. Designers in construction companies, software developers within financial services, the copywriter working on in-house investor publications for a super fund. Once these creative professionals outside the creative industries are taken into consideration, we see that the creative workforce really is a sizable and growing beast. The total creative workforce is now more than 6.2% of employment, 600,000 people across businesses within the creative industries and those outside the creative industries, with a 19% growth over the 5 years from 2006 to 2011, I'll just repeat that. It's a 19% growth over that 5-year period. The total creative workforce, as I said, is 6.2% of total Australian employment. Almost as many creative professionals work outside the creative industries as work within them. 43% of the 600,000 plus workers across the creative workforce in fact work outside of agency and studio land, and the number of embedded creatives has grown 17% since 2006. I'll just explain these terms for those of you who are not familiar with them. The creative workforce, as we've described it, is made up of embedded creatives, and they're those who are undertaking creative occupations but work outside the creative industries, for example, designers and software developers in manufacturing and finance. Specialist creatives are those who are undertaking creative occupations and work within the creative industries, for example, architects and film editors. Support workers are those who are undertaking roles in administration, finance and so on within the creative industries. So where are these creative workers going and why? Well, an obvious reason is to find a job. For example, the demise of the publishing industry is well documented, with the Media Union estimating that in the past 2 years, some 1,500 journalists have left the profession due to restructuring and redundancies. Along with the loss of manufacturing workers engaged in the printing process, demand for highly paid journalists and editorial staff has softened. And not only have we seen job losses, but a resulting declining average wage too. It is no wonder then that over 6,000 writing and publishing professionals were working outside the creative industries in 2011, up 9% on the 2006 figures. There was another 5,000 plus working in other creative industries such as advertising, marketing, film and TV and radio. This was up 26% since 2006. The upside for those who have found work outside the sector is that on average they've made more money when they left writing, publishing and print media. It's a similar story for architects. The highest paid architects are not working within the architecture sector, but in other industries such as construction and manufacturing, where they earn around 11.5% more. The number of architects working outside the sector grew by 28% in that period, 2006-2011. But it isn't all bad news with respect to incomes within the creative industries. Incomes of those employed within the creative industries are typically increasing. Over 20% of those employed within the creative industries in 2011 were earning $2,000 or more per week, which was up from around 13% in 2006. As you can imagine, this is the case for some sectors, more so than others. Over 30% of employees within the software development and interactive content sector earn $2,000 or more a week, whereas music and performing arts professionals have the lowest average weekly salaries within the creative industries, with only 6% of employees earning $2,000 or more a week. One of the major through lines then of the report is the growing demand for what we are calling boundary crossing skills. Creative industries professionals are needed across the economy for their problem solving, collaboration and integrative thinking, all built upon a specialised design-centred knowledge. It highlights the uptake of writers in insurance services, designers in investment banks, developers and code cutters in science and pharmacy. The global economy requires a more integrated approach, which recognises that a printing company is now only competitive if it brings in a full suite of digital and graphic design services, that a clothing manufacturer will need to connect material science with high design values, and that design agencies must increasingly apply the principles of lean manufacturing. We need professionals with deep domain knowledge and the ability to work with other professionals in adjacent disciplines. What we do see around the world is the increasing recognition that creative industries, with their associated skills and capabilities, are a major driver of competitive advantage in global markets and supply chains. We need to understand the best way to grow, sustain and engage small, innovative businesses and how they can help us reconstruct declining, uncompetitive industries and create new ones. We know the Australian economy is changing, but do we really understand what our creative and knowledge industries do and how best to leverage their talents? This is a quote from Netflix CEO and founder Reed Hastings, and I'll read the entire quote for those of you who can't see it online. As a society, we've had hundreds of years to work on managing industrial firms. We're just beginning to learn how to run creative firms, which is quite different. Industrial firms thrive on reducing variation, manufacturing error. Creative firms thrive on increasing variation, innovation. So this is from Netflix CEO, and it's quite interesting. I don't know whether any of you are aware of the presentation that Netflix did about their HR policy. Has anyone seen that video? Okay, you need to Google it and go online and watch they basically put together a presentation about what their people policies were at Netflix, and it completely flips HR on its head. I won't say any more than that because you should just go on and have a look at it. It's about how to really attract and retain creative talent. And, last time I looked, Netflix were doing okay on that front. So it's really worth having a look. But I think the point that he's making is a very, very good one. We're really at the very, very beginnings of understanding what makes creative talent tick, what makes innovation happen, how to really structure companies that are no longer, operating on traditional grounds. Because me and my team have been working closely with creative businesses over the last 5 years, we are in a position to see creative businesses up close and personal. We've actually been in operation for 5 years now. We've worked with over 1,500 businesses across the creative industries in that time, from the startups through to sole traders, to very, very established multi-million-dollar companies. The kind of companies that I'm talking about include people like the team at The Explainers who produced that little explainer video at the beginning. They're actually doing work with places like Telstra to help them explain different products to their staff, let alone to the rest of us. So they do a lot of that sort of work, and we engage them to do that. Companies like Killer Noodle, who do all of our designed the cover of the report and all of our collateral, and a company called Small Multiples, who are the ones who did our data visualisation, which is available on the website. These are just a few of the small but dynamic companies in the creative industries and ones that we've worked with. The slides I'm just going to scroll through in the next few minutes of my talk are images from firms that we've worked with over the last 5 years. We're really, really proud of these companies. Many of them, came to us, seeking, some advice. They knew they were really good at their creative stuff, but they were really having challenges in the business areas. And we've just seen an incredible growth with some of those companies. It's not that they were bad at business. They actually just didn't know the right questions to ask, and they didn't have the skills and experience in that area. They had very, very strong skills in their creative side, but they didn't have the skills in the business side. And once they understood what they needed to do, once they understood who they needed to bring in and work with, they're just accelerating. So we've seen firsthand what great opportunities come when creative professionals bring their skills to bear in other sectors, and also what can happen when they decide to work together with other creative businesses, combining their skills and talent, but doing so in a way that can create scale and still retain their creative leadership. This is a key challenge for creative businesses. They're too small, often, to quote for very large pieces of work. They've got the capability on one level, but they don't have the capacity. So working out innovative ways that these companies can join together, retain their creative integrity, but also scale up is a significant challenge for a lot of the businesses that we deal with. The research within our report is clearly at the macro level. But at the CIIC, we've also had the privilege, as I said, of working at the micro level, one business at a time. We're witnessing what makes creative businesses profitable and what they need to do to take advantage of the greater opportunities there are in a highly volatile business environment that increasingly needs their skills and capabilities. We're seeing some interesting and not insubstantial dilemmas being faced by these businesses. Within all the sectors we service, there is a degree of sector creep, a blurring of boundaries of once distinct sectors to full-blown fragmentation of the industry landscape. How does a business avoid ad hoc change? how to ensure they incorporate new or additional services and address the impact on the business as a whole. How do they successfully manage a chosen transition in their revenue or business model, successfully manage multiple revenue streams, or shift from a fee-for-service, labour-reliant model? How does one compete in a sector which generally contains a broad set of competitors? An SME architect coexists with vertically integrated global multi-service operators, and at the other end against lean, smaller outfits, sometimes one-man bands, both of whom can compete aggressively on cost. These are the challenges creative industry businesses in today's economy are grappling with. They're big shifts, and they don't just apply to creative businesses. As has played out in recent months, even some of Australia's biggest businesses are very, very vulnerable. To meet these challenges, my money is on an even greater take-up of creative professional workers across the economy. We are seeing and will continue to see a growing demand for the services of creative industry businesses to build a truly creative economy. Over the time that we've been working with these businesses, we can see some of the answers for some of these questions, and we've been, working with businesses on that, and increasingly, seeing some, real progress with businesses in the creative industries, and very, very largely in those areas of collaboration, partnership, looking at new ways to, diversify their income streams and to collaborate with other industries outside of their sector. So we're really pleased to be able to work with those businesses and to continue to do so. And what I'd like to do now is to sort of shift gears slightly and talk to you about, in a bit more depth, about one of the programs that we've been working on to illustrate what we're doing in that area. And so I'm just going to have a little fiddle here while I do that, so I can get this next video up. The program that I'm going to talk about, I just have to go to the website. We've been running a program, yep, that looks good. We've been running a program now, which we did as a pilot. We started as a pilot 3 years ago, where we recognised that for creative businesses to really grow, they needed to create a bridge between what they were doing and other sectors of the economy. We had to grow the market. You have to grow the market for what the creative industries professionals are. We were in the unique position of working within a program that dealt with not just creative businesses but with manufacturers as well. And we thought, well, why not start in a hard place? We'll look at how we can actually bring creative professionals together with manufacturers. So we did a pilot program, which we started with 6 businesses, 3 in South Australia and 3 in New South Wales, where we brought the concept of design thinking and design integration into some pretty mainstream manufacturing companies. I'm going to show you this video and then I'm going to talk a little bit which explains the process and the purpose, and then I'm just going to talk a little bit about the companies themselves and what the journey that they've been on 2.5 years later. So...
Australian businesses face many challenges. Companies that have traditionally competed on cost are finding it increasingly difficult to do so. They're having to increase the perceived value of their products in order to maintain the margins that keep their businesses afloat. The value of design, what design actually does ultimately, is it enables companies to develop much better relationships with their customers. Before the modern designer emerged, customers pretty much were given no alternative. A company would produce something on their own without any input from the customer. They'd make all sorts of assumptions about what the customer wanted, and then they'd create something and throw it over the fence. And the customer would say, yep, I want that, or I don't want that. In this scenario, the customers pretty much had no power in determining what it was that they got. There's a certain amount of risk attached to that. In order to mitigate this, the role of the designer emerged. A company would come up with an idea, it'd be handed to the designer to sort of humanize it, and then it would be passed on to the customer. And the net result of this was a slight change in the balance of rejection. So products were more successful. Some of the risk had been taken out of the equation. That model of having a designer in an organization is a good one because it reduces risk. Still, this equation still had the customer at the end of things rather than included in the beginning of things. And I think that's where design is evolving to at the moment.
Prototyping, often and regularly is really important, and even sketching is a form of visual prototyping and design. As soon as you can, and as often as you can, whether it be sketch or take it to the next level of a cardboard model, present it to typical end users and test its usefulness, because it gives you confidence and it de-risks the process. You learn from potential failures very early, and you can resolve solutions quickly and move on to the next stage of development.
If you can reduce your risk in terms of what you produce being liked and therefore bought, or not liked and therefore discarded, you're improving your bottom line. So the most obvious benefit to any business that I could see is the reduction in risk of failure.
Consumer engagement at the beginning of the design process allows you to really understand what consumers' needs and wants are. It also allows you to identify some of the touch points that will allow you to improve your margin and produce a product which is not just in a sea of sameness. It allows you to differentiate yourself from your competitors, and this moves us away from what we see as a race to the bottom, where we're only competing on price.
What Rover was looking for when we first got engaged was to take advantage of a heap of operational efficiency initiatives they put in place. It was our understanding that over a period of years they'd moved a lot of their local production and manufacturing facilities to new jointly owned or completely owned facilities in China. And it was now time in their product development cycle that they wanted to take real advantage of these offshore facilities and assets and develop a ground-up mower. A mower that would be represent, the next evolution and a totally new generation of mowers. And design has to understand the requirements of the business it's serving, just as well as it needs to understand the requirements of the market it's serving as well. So, it was critical that we tapped into that and worked side by side with those engineers and production managers inside Rover to make the product a success.
Step one in the process, if I can call it that, is to engage with the customer in some way, to empathise with what they're doing, find out why they're doing something. There'll be a reason underneath that. Once you understand that reason, that gives you an opportunity to develop a better solution.
It was during the research phase and the initial stages of the project, when we were going out and observing these different users and understanding the needs, that we spent one day watching a professional contract mower. And we saw that typical scenario, and I'm sure we've all experienced it, where you've got a full catcher of grass and we're trying to shake the grass out of the mouth or the throat of the catcher into, in his case, as a contract mower, he had a big trailer bin. In the back of our minds as designers, we knew we'd helped write the specification and requirement, and we knew that the new Rover Challenger was going to have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, catcher on the market. And we started to see the conflict between the human needs and what the business needs were and the marketing needs. And we thought, wow, we're going to have the largest volume catcher. It's probably going to be the heaviest catcher, and we're still going to try and empty or dump all of that grass out of that catcher. So we knew something had to change at a fundamental principle there. And ultimately, through concept development and design innovation, the crop catcher was born. When the value of that innovation gets translated through to the retail environment, and there's a buying decision being made by the end user, in this case a commercial contractor, he's looking at this innovation going, this is brilliant. For the manufacturer's perspective, for Rover's perspective, they translated those dollars in cost of extra polymer and components to a significant gain in retail margin.
If I was to say something to another business leader regarding the relationship of design and their business and how design can help their business, I put aside the upfront costs that are sometimes associated with such an approach. The long-term downstream value that we can add through having a product which is differentiated from a sea of sameness allows us to really find a niche for ourselves in the market and offer the consumer something different than what is already there. That allows you to add value to your business and your customers' business.
I would strongly recommend, irrespective of whether you do it via a formal design integration process or some other mechanism, that any CEO of any business in Australia actively search out and find ways of engaging with their customers.
So, that the chap talking, this guy from CMD, Industrial Design Company, and he's now
Australian
actually
businesses face many
providing some of those services to manufacturers in other manufacturing companies and helping them through this process. So I'm just going to show you just have to flick through these slides here quickly. We've been working with a range of companies in this area. Some of them, when you look at them, you'll see their sort of household names. And go slide. So these are some of the companies that we've been working with over the last 2.5 years. I attended a business breakfast at National Manufacturing Week this week. If you told me when I first started this job as the Director of the Creative Industry Centre that I would spend a very large part of my time working and attending manufacturing events, I really would have said, I think that's the wrong job for me. But actually it's been an incredibly interesting mind-opening experience, and what it's also shown is how incredibly valuable the skills of the creative industries are to other sectors of our economy, and in particular to these manufacturing companies. We had two of the CEOs, one from Enware, Enware, who's a large commercial tapware company. In fact, their taps are in the toilet here at the town hall, I just noticed, and Infosecure, who are a manufacturer of child restraints, car seats and so on. And it was 2.5 years on for those two companies, so it was really interesting to hear from them what impact it had had on their business. And I think one of the really gratifying messages that we heard was the role that they now have, or that they incredible relationship they both now have with universities, with research, in terms of research and innovation. Infosecure now has a formal relationship with UWS, University of Western Sydney. They brought in industrial design graduates to work on their research projects, and they've now employed 3 of those people within their business. They value them so highly. Enware's done the same thing with UTS. They now have employed a range of researchers into their business, and they see those as incredibly valuable parts of their business, and they've allowed them to innovate around their business processes and not just their product design, but a whole range of insights around customers. So for those businesses, they both recognise that they've been on a journey and they've got a long way to go, but it's fundamentally impacted on how they see their business and their future competitiveness, because they've actually lifted themselves out of the sea of sameness. Certainly for Infosecure, they've gone from a medium, very small company to one that's now actually the leading producer of child restraints in Australia, with a growing market internationally. So we're really thrilled to see that work happening, and that work will continue to happen. So look, I'm conscious of time, and people might have some questions that they want to ask, but I did just want to show you from the macro to what's happening with creative, with the size and scope of the creative industries in Australia, and then how that's working in a very practical way for creative professionals operating within a whole range of different environments, and in this case in manufacturing. So thank you very much.